Thank you for visiting English Alien. Click subscribe and get notified for new content. Here are some ways to practice. We have reading comprehension. There will be questions about the chapter at the end and in the description box below the video. Answer the questions in the comment section. Listening comprehension. You can close your eyes and listen to me read the story, then answer the questions in the comment section. Pronunciation. You can pause the video, read the words out loud with your voice, then play the video and listen to compare your pronunciation with mine. Chapter 8 Vocabulary. Pause the video, review the words and definitions. We will go over them after the chapter. The Force in the Forest by English Alien. Chapter 8. The officers continued to point their guns at Alejandro, unsure of what to do in this situation. Oscar tried to calm them, telling them that everything had a logical explanation and that they shouldn't act hastily. Although Oscar did his best to manage the tension and stress of himself and the officers in the room, he had no idea what was happening. He found himself slowly backing away from Alejandro and looked around to see everyone else doing the same. Alejandro was afraid to move. He could see and feel the changes happening. He felt an intense wave of heat spreading across his body, as if an inner fire had ignited beneath his skin. The sensation was both exhilarating and worrying, a mix of tingling heat and pulsating energy. It was as if his skin was stretching and reshaping itself, a strange combination of pressure and release. He could sense a subtle vibration resonating within him, as if his individual cells were being rearranged. Alongside the physical sensations, Alejandro experienced a whirlwind of emotions. There was a heightened awareness, a deep connection to his own transformation. It was a mixture of awe and wonder, as if he was witnessing a profound miracle happen before his very eyes. Yet there was also fear and uncertainty, as his familiar human form dissolved, becoming something different and unknown. As Alejandro's transformation reached completion, something profound happened. His emotions, which were once tied to human experiences, started to change. His love for the forest and its creatures expanded into a deep compassion that went beyond individuals. His desire to protect grew into a strong drive for balance and harmony in all aspects of life. The primal force inside him merged with his developing understanding, giving him wisdom about the interconnectedness of everything. Alejandro was no longer guided solely by instincts. He became a vessel for the knowledge of nature. His purpose now extended beyond himself to the well-being of all living things. Alejandro's skin had completely changed. He sat completely still at the table, his eyes closed. The officers were overcome with a mixture of fear and awe by Alejandro's transformation. One officer, overcome by his fear, fired his weapon. Alejandro fell back in his chair from the impact of the bullet. The officers approached him slowly, cautiously, and fearfully. Alejandro remained still with his eyes closed, not moving or making any sound. Oscar tried to calm the officers and to understand what was happening. He cautiously approached Alejandro, examining his body for signs of injury. He discovered that although the bullet had hit him, it didn't seem to have caused any damage. As the officers came closer to see the results for themselves, they saw no blood or wound. This only confused them more and raised their fear. Suddenly, Alejandro opened his eyes. They glowed with a mysterious purple light. The intense gaze he gave held a mesmerizing quality, pulling the officers into a realm that was beyond their understanding. He stared intensely around him. His gaze was deep and penetrating, and it was as if he could see directly into the soul of each person in the room. Without making a sound, Alejandro rose to his feet and walked towards the window. The officers moved back in terror as Alejandro gazed out into the world. In a soothing voice that seemed to echo in the mind, Alejandro uttered, "I must return to the forest." As Alejandro stood there, his skin started to shift and ripple through a series of colors as he moved. His clothes fell to the ground and he vanished from sight. Moments passed in complete silence. "What just happened here?" Hernandez asked, still stunned by Alejandro's strange transformation and disappearance. "It was like he was a spirit of the forest," exclaimed one of the officers, while the others still tried to comprehend what had just happened. Alejandro's skin was like a changing leaf of colors, and his eyes were like purple lights, Oscar whispered in awe. The room fell silent. The air was filled with the scent of earth and moss, as if the forest itself had invaded the room. Alejandro was gone, and the officers were left behind trying to think of some logical explanation for what had just occurred. Chapter 8 Vocabulary Review. Hasty, acting with excessive speed or insufficient consideration. Okay, so this is acting before thinking. Oscar tried to calm them, telling him that everything had a logical explanation and that they shouldn't act hastily. Okay, hastily is the adverb form of hasty as an adjective. To exhilarate, to make someone feel happiness and excitement. To tingle, to have a prickling or stinging feeling. The sensation was both exhilarating and worrying, a mix of tingling heat and pulsating energy. Whirlwind, to describe a situation that happens suddenly and that is full of lots of quickly changing or confusing activity. Okay, traditionally a whirlwind is a circular column of moving air. Okay, but when talking about abstract things like emotions, it's just talking about things that are quickly changing and or confusing. Alongside the physical sensations, Alejandro experienced a whirlwind of emotions. There was a heightened awareness, a deep connection to his own transformation. To dissolve, to cause, to disperse or disappear. Yet there was also a fear and uncertainty as his familiar human form dissolved, becoming something different and unknown. Interconnectedness, the state of having different parts or things connected or related to each other. The primal force inside him merged with his developing understanding, giving him wisdom about the interconnectedness of everything. Vessel, a person into whom some quality, such as grace, is infused. Okay, so vessel is kind of like a container. Okay, so in the abstract, a container for a quality such as grace or knowledge or wisdom. Alejandro was no longer guided solely by instincts. He became a vessel for the very knowledge of nature. Wound, an injury to living tissue caused by a cut, blow, or other impact, typically one in which the skin is cut or broken. As the officers came closer to see the damage for themselves, they saw no blood or wound. Mesmerizing, very attractive in a mysterious way, making you want to keep looking. The intense gaze he gave held a mesmerizing quality, pulling the officers into a realm that was beyond their understanding. To utter, to say something or make a sound with your voice. In a soothing voice that seemed to echo in the mind, Alejandro uttered, "I must return to the forest." To ripple, a small wave or a slight movement of a surface. As Alejandro stood there, his skin started to shift and ripple through a series of colors as he moved. So a ripple is like the movement of water when you drop something into it. To vanish, disappear suddenly and completely. His clothes fell to the ground and he vanished from sight. Chapter 8 Questions. Choose one or more questions to answer in the comments section below. Answer in complete sentences. I will respond with feedback and error correction to the first 50 comments. Number 1. What was happening to Alejandro's skin? Number 2. How did Alejandro's perception change? Number 3. Why did the officer shoot Alejandro? Number 4. How do you think the officers or Oscar would explain what happened to Alejandro? Number 5. Write a question the story created for you. I look forward to reading your comments. Thank you for visiting English Alien. Click subscribe and get notified for new content.